Seahawks radio 34-14, the win over the Falcons on Sunday. Both teams are 4-3 with the win. The Seahawks are 2-1 away from home. 2 touchdown passes in the victory for Geno Smith, 18 of 28 passing, 207 yards. He connected with Kenneth Walker and DK Metcalf. Walker also rushed for a score. Seattle returns home next Sunday against Buffalo. College football over the weekend. Oregon shut out Purdue 35-0. Oregon State came up short, falling 33-25 at home against UNLV. Washington State rolled past Hawaii 42-10. NHL tomorrow night, the Seattle Kraken put a 3-game winning streak on the line at home against the Colorado Avalanche.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
October is ending, but I want to keep the fall fun going. So I shopped Kohl's lowest prices of the season. I saved 30% on top active brands like Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour. Then I got my kids some boots for under $22, scored 50% off Food Network baking must-haves, and earned Kohl's cash. Yep, it doesn't get better than Kohl's. Select styles. Offers end October 27th. Coupons do not apply to Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour. See store or Kohl's for details.
Progressive presents good news, bad news, dumb news, and great news. Good news. Your coworker Kyle said bundling home and auto insurance with Progressive could save you money. Bad news. While saying this, Kyle was eating your clearly labeled lunch. Dumb news. Pizza near work costs $7 a slice, and it tastes like drywall covered in ketchup. Great news. You decide to see if you could save money bundling at Progressive.com and enjoy more lunches far away from Kyle. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
No way football is playing in the fall and winter
because the hits don't hurt as much when you're numb. Get the lowdown on all the sports action coming up right here.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Ben Stevens and George Kurtz.
It's a new week starting right now on Football Full Circle, live right here on the SportsGrid Radio Network and Sirius XM Channel 159. He is George Kurtz. I am Ben Stevens. We recap everything on this Monday, looking back on the weekend that was in the NFL Sunday slate in week number 7. George, 12 games on Sunday. All of them impactful. Sunday night in prime time, an opportunity for the New York Jets to step up once again. They falter. Russell Wilson in his Pittsburgh debut delivers in the second half. We had a Super Bowl 58 rematch that does not really look like a Super Bowl 59 preview at this moment, and a ton of big games featuring teams in the best division in the NFL. That's the NFC North. We recap everything from the Sunday slate here on FFC.
You mentioned it. The NFC North, Detroit Lions look like almost a runaway train right now, playing so well. Maybe they are the team to beat there. San Fran, not the team to beat. They've got a lot of injury problems, Brandon Ayuk being the latest one of them here. And that Kansas City, I mean, how does Mahomes win a game where he does 154 yards, more interceptions than touchdowns again, where Kareem Hunt looks like their best player, you know, the guy they picked up the scrap heap a couple of weeks ago, and you said the New York Jets. Actually, both New York teams. I mean, I guess Devontae Adams, maybe he was running wrong routes too. Maybe that's why they lost that game there. But good first half, ugly second half here. And Ben, can it be only a matter of time until Daniel Jones is benched and plays his last game for the New York Giants?
Yeah, the Giants struggling in a divisional duel against the Eagles as well at MetLife on Sunday. His Saquon Barkley comes back to booze, but quiets the home crowd in East Rutherford very, very quickly. George, let's start with the recap of Sunday Night Football. For a second consecutive week, the New York Jets, the primary focus around the National Football League. After they fired Robert Saleh and interim head coach Jeff Ulbrich takes over, they falter on Monday night to end out Week 6 against the Buffalo Bills. All right, they acquired Devontae Adams the very next morning. They become a team, of course, that everybody focuses on once again in another primetime marquee matchup spot to end out Sunday in the Steel City in Pittsburgh. But it wasn't just the Jets with the drama or the storylines. It was also the Steelers. Russell Wilson taking over for Justin Fields as the starting quarterback and making his debut in a Steelers uniform. George, early in the game, the New York Jets looked good. Breece Hall was involved. They were up 15-6 in full command. The Steelers offense looked poor. Russell Wilson was getting questioned already by the home crowd. Why would we start this guy and not Fields, who led us to a 4-2 record? From that point, midway through the opening half, where New York led 15-6, the Jets never scored again, and Pittsburgh scored the final 31 points of the game, shutting out the Jets in the second half to win 37-15. The Steelers are a winning franchise. With Mike Tomlin, they win outright as a 2.5-point home underdog. The Jets, George, actively find more ways to lose, so I guess this is what we should have expected, even with Devontae Adams out of Gang Green.
Yeah, maybe, just maybe, Mike Tomlin knows what he's doing here, right? Because he ended up being the right move. I'm not going to speak for you, but I know I criticized the move here. I didn't think it was the right move to go from a winning quarterback in Justin Fields to Russell Wilson, but it certainly worked. I'm not going to tell you Russell Wilson was beautiful. All right, he wasn't, but yeah, he throws that alley-oop ball, deep ball, the nice high arcing, and they came down with it. That's the bottom line. His receivers came down with it. George Pickens made a couple of interesting catches. I wouldn't call them beautiful throws, but they're easily catchable balls, and the receivers came down to it. Jets couldn't make the big plays when they really needed to, and the Jets have a lot of issues in their secondary. They're beat up here. Rodgers couldn't do anything in the second half. I mean, you said it was 15-6 at the half. Last I heard, the Jets finished up with 15 points. That's it.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything in the second half here. So it is what it is here. Jets now 2-5. I mean, Devontae Adams, does you make your team better? Sure. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't, but it's probably not your biggest need. You were fine with Lazard, Mike Williams, and Garrett Wilson. You were fine there. Offensive line is probably a bigger need there. But, Aaron Rodgers runs the team. He wanted that. We've seen all the jokes now. If you're going on social media, every joke. Oh, a Jets taking to pick up Jordy Nelson, Antonio Freeman. Hell, maybe Sterling Sharp. It's a joke about Sterling Sharp more with Brett Favre, but you get my point here. So Jets are in trouble. They're definitely in trouble. It could be a long season. And let's face it, Ben, they don't make the playoffs. Forget Salah. Douglas is gone. Albrecht is gone. A-Rod's gone. This team starts all over from scratch next season.
Yep, they certainly do. And I guess, George, that's been one of my cases in making all of this try to make sense around the New York Jets. Do you set your franchise back by multiple years because of this all-in investment on Aaron Rodgers for him to run the pants or wear the pants and run the organization? We shall see. If the Jets can even set themselves back, though, that is the question. They've drafted 2 young rookie quarterbacks within the first 3 picks of the NFL draft, Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson. Neither worked out. This is a team very much in danger, now being 2-5 in 3 games below 500 of missing out on the NFL postseason for a 14th consecutive year. By far the longest playoff drought in all of the National Football League. And when you look around, Devontae Adams, George, to your point, he doesn't kick. They could use Mason Crosby. Another missed field goal last night from Greg Zuerlein. That was blocked, but it wasn't like it was the prettiest strike in the world. He doesn't play offensive line. More injuries for Gang Green up front. He doesn't help in defending the run, where the Jets defense has been exposed certain times this year. Najee Harris running for more than 100 yards for a second consecutive week for Pittsburgh last night. He's a positive impact offensively, but one thing he doesn't do, George, he doesn't throw himself the football. And Aaron Rodgers now has thrown multiple interceptions for the second time in the last 3 weeks. You could blame one on Garrett Wilson, that it went right off his hands. But in the 2 interceptions that Rodgers did throw, the Steelers took advantage right away, leading to a touchdown. And more than anything, George, whatever you want to blame, whether you're in New York and you were mad at the ref show last week against Buffalo, or you want to blame Greg Zuerlein for being a bad kicker, or you want to cast blame and make him the scapegoat in Robert Saleh, when it comes down to it, the Jets are losing football games. They can ill afford to do so, and they're a 2-5 football team, 3 games below 500.
I mean, the sky is falling, but I don't think it's collapsing yet. All right, you play New England next week. Right, and we know New England has their own issues. Although, hey, they're a much more exciting team with Drake May at quarterback. Yep. All right, then you got Houston. That's going to be an issue. But then Arizona, Indianapolis, Seattle. I mean, like I said, you beat New England. You're 3-5. I don't think it'll be 3-6. You could theoretically be around 500 right before your bye week, right, or right after your bye week. And then you go into a closing schedule. It's really not the most difficult either. You still got to play Miami twice. Tua will be back by then, right? So you're playing theoretically the real Miami team, but you got Jacksonville in there. You got the Rams finishing up. You got Buffalo second to last week of the season. All right, so you're not going to. The division's over. Forget your division, but I think they still have a shot at a wild card if things break right for them in the conference. So I don't think it's over yet. But the problem is all those games I mentioned: New England, Arizona, Indianapolis, the Rams, Jacksonville. You can't lose any of them. You can't lose any of them. They all have to be W's. They're against teams theoretically worse than you, and they all have to be W's. And odds are you're not going to beat every single one of them. But then again, maybe you beat Miami twice. Maybe you beat Buffalo and Buffalo. Who knows? But the Jets are looking at everything goes well. 9 to 10 wins. And I said that means everything goes well here. Probably not. Listen, Gabe likes to call me Captain Chaos. I like when things go wild there. Everything gets screwed up. Whatever. The Jets probably do need a house cleaning anyway. But it's going to be a long, long season in New York football outside of Buffalo.
George, if you still have belief in the Jets, I don't. But if you do, and anybody out there listening, it's plus 260 right now for New York to reach the postseason. You could cash a big plus money ticket if you buy into the Jets right now. The updated win total for New York is just 7.5. They're going to need more than that to get in to the postseason. The AFC is not the world beater of a conference that we expected it to be before the year. It's really the NFC that has taken that mantle. So there's a sliver of hope for the Jets, but there's not a lot left for New York. Elsewhere around the Sunday slate, next.
Fall is coming.
Don't look like an idiot at work. Know your stuff. Football and everything else.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
A Texas man whose execution was halted by a subpoena is set to testify to lawmakers. This update brought to you by Linzess. Robert Robertson has been set to become the first person in the U.S. executed over a murder conviction connected to a diagnosis of shaken baby syndrome. His claims of innocence are backed by a group of Republican and Democratic lawmakers who say he was convicted based on outdated science. Once Robertson testifies to lawmakers, prosecutors could seek a new execution date at any time, according to one of his attorneys. A storm system in the Caribbean rapidly escalated Saturday from a tropical storm into Hurricane Oscar, the 10th hurricane of the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. Forecasters say Oscar's winds were much stronger than previously thought and declared the system a hurricane at 2 p.m. Eastern Saturday. The National Weather Service in Melbourne, Florida said Oscar could bring indirect impacts to East Coast beaches in the U.S. from a long period swell in the coming days. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
In business, service is everything. Cintas delivers what you need to better serve your customers. Whether it's freshly laundered work apparel for almost any job imaginable, tested and inspected fire protection systems, first aid and safety supplies, on-site AED training, or mops and restroom products, stocked and ready when you need them. Better work days happen together. So visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check you have a full tank of gas first before road tripping through the desert.
Empty? Seriously? Maybe I can walk.
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds.
Maybe I can't.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Fall is almost here.
It's time to stow the lawnmower and get ready for all that glorious action coming your way. Stay tuned to SportsGrid for all the strategies, angles, and info you need to get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Ben Stevens and George Kurtz.
A recap of the Sunday slate here on this Monday on Football Full Circle. Quickly, George, before we move on from Sunday Night Football, we should highlight what Pittsburgh did very well, and that's win the football game. They are 5-2. Ground game looked efficient, and despite some slow offense early, Russell Wilson looked really good under center for the Steelers. 264 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, did not turn the football over. And it was the debate. Like you, George, I was a little bit skeptical of turning the reins over from Justin Fields to Russell Wilson, a guy that had a very tumultuous 2 years in Denver. And even last year, George, when efficient, 26 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. threw for more than 250 yards 3 times in 5 games, and 2 of those 3 happened in the first 3 weeks of the year. Russell Wilson, though, really solid last night for the Steelers. Does his play, George, in your estimation, elevate Pittsburgh's ceiling at all this season?
The passing game will be better, or at least the downfield passing game will be better. All right, Russell Wilson, he looked spry last night too, Ben. He's not Justin Fields spry, but he looked spry. He was able to move around the pocket, and I think that's important because that offensive line is average at best. All right, so that was my biggest worry here is that Russell Wilson's going to take sacks that Fields could get out of. All right, he gave some yards with his legs here, but Fields looked good. But Russell Wilson looked good last night, so that was good to see here. They play the Giants Monday Night Football again, at home again. I mean, I don't know how Pittsburgh, nice scheduling there, right? You play Dallas Sunday night at home, Jets Sunday night at home, now Giants Monday night at home. Unusually get 3 home primetime games out of 4 weeks, so Steelers are doing something right there. So we're going to like that chance to get the Giants, right? I mean, I always said now you're 6-2, but more importantly, gives Russell Wilson another week, right? Another week to get in rhythm here. Steelers, I think, are going to make a move here by the deadline to get another wide receiver. We've heard about it for months now, right? It was Ayuk, and then it was they went on Adams. And now Mike Williams seems to be the big guy here, which is kind of ironic since they played each other last night, that he could be headed to Pittsburgh. They were going to table talk until this week after the game. So I think he'll get some help there as well. So I think he'll be better. Yes, I think he will make the offense better.
It will be interesting as well, George, to see how it plays out, right? Because we know Pittsburgh is a winning franchise. 18 years now under Mike Tomlin, never a losing record, never less than 8 wins in the previous 17. But they have not played in the AFC Championship since 2016, trying to elevate that ceiling beyond just a 9-8 or 10-7 record and a playoff berth. Super Bowl 58 rematch yesterday in Santa Clara. One team looks like a Super Bowl favorite. The other is sub 500. The Chiefs win in Santa Clara over the 49ers, 28-18. KC, like it was, George, in Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas, an underdog. And the Chiefs win outright, despite 154 yards, 0 passing touchdowns, and multiple interceptions from Patrick Mahomes. The ground game good. Mahomes ran it in once. McCole Hardman ran it in as well. And Kareem Hunt back with KC, 2 rushing scores. Meanwhile, for the 49ers, unable to put up much against a very stout Chiefs defense. Brock Purdy, not a touchdown pass either. Less than 215 yards in 3 interceptions. Deebo Samuel, a late scratch. He was sick, dealing with an illness before the game. And during the game, Brandon Ayuk, a knee injury that San Francisco fears could be significant. George, the 49ers now just 3-4, booked as a favorite in every game. They're 3-4 against the number as well. A losing record after 7 weeks for the 49ers.
Yeah, it may not just be their year, right? So many injuries for this team. Ayuk, you mentioned they suspect it's an ACL injury. That's what Shanahan said after the game. And generally, by the way, that's not guessing. They can test your knee. The doctors can. They know. They have a pretty good idea. If they're saying they think it's an ACL, I'd be surprised today that when we find out, and imagine in a couple of hours, if it's not an ACL. So he's probably toast there. Debo played the first series, and he got sick, and he was out. Jawan Jennings, we got to remember, he was out coming into the game with an injury here. So we probably shouldn't be surprised they lost that game. Right? You're down your top 3 wide receivers. You're going to have issues. I don't care how deep you are. Not that we haven't even talked about Christian McCaffrey, right? And he's out. So they have some problems. And then Trent Williams was thrown out of the game for throwing a nice right hook. He punched someone dead in the helmet. Why? Doesn't that hurt?
Never get it.
I mean, I don't understand what the point of that is. So he got thrown out of the game as well. They're a little bit of a mess right now. But hey, you play the Cowboys Sunday night. Cowboys are generally what cures all messes, right? I still think they'll beat Dallas Sunday night to get back to 500 there. And Kansas City's not much better here. Look at this. You guys, Noah Gray, he led the team in receiving yesterday, 4 catches, 66. Other than that, it's Worthy, 3 for 19. Kelsey, 4 for 17. All short passes here. Justin Watson, 1 for 8. Hardman, 1 for 7. This is ugly. Just ugly. Mahomes is not playing all that well, or maybe it's the receivers not getting open. You have to think, Ben, eventually this is another team that's looking for a wide receiver, and I think they're looking bigger than Mike Williams here. Everyone, I'm not like I'm breaking news here, but everyone's wondering, could DeAndre Hopkins be available? Would he cure what ails them? certainly wouldn't hurt. Just don't know if they can fit the contract and how they're going to make that work. But Kansas City, they're finding ways to win. And that's all that matters in the NFL. But if you want to win the big game, I think they certainly can't keep playing like this.
Yeah, George, it was kind of the story for last year too, right? If there was ever a year to keep KC from an AFC championship or a Super Bowl appearance, let alone Lombardi Trophy, it was last year. And the Chiefs still somehow, some way, find a way to get it done. Andy Reid is still there. Steve Spagnuolo has the defense rolling. And even Mahomes, who has 6 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, a negative TD to INT ratio. The Chiefs are the last undefeated team in the NFL at a perfect 6-0, covering in 5 of 6 as well. Yesterday, winning outright as an underdog. The 49ers, George, no longer the favorites to win the NFC title as of this Monday. It's the Detroit Lions. What a game it was in Minneapolis yesterday against the previously undefeated Vikings. But at the end of it, both Detroit and Minnesota are 5-1. The Lions vault into the top spot in a highly competitive division known as the NFC North. We'll tell you everything the Lions did yesterday to win a wild one in the Twin Cities, even overcoming a late scoop and score fumble return touchdown by Minnesota. How that looks for both the Lions and the Vikings, and also the Packers, who walked it off yesterday. What it means for the NFC North, up next.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
There it goes, a long drive. If it stays fair.
Game 6 of the 1975 World Series. Red Sox catcher Carlton Fisk belts a 12th inning home run to beat the Reds 7-6.
Home run!
Probably had to be one of the best played, not only World Series game, but the best played game that has been seen in a long time.
And Carlton Fisk had a lot of little boy in him right there, Joe.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
North Carolina State University researchers have discovered the secret of the fastest jumping backyard bug on Earth, the tiny globular springtail. It doesn't fly, bite, or sting, but with a tiny spring-loaded forked appendage under its abdomen to avoid predators, man, can it jump! Jumping 60 times its body length and spinning at 368 RPM, it can only be seen by high-speed cameras. This may be helping possible nightmare fuel research at Cornell. They're building swarms of autonomous AI-powered 3D printed quadruped insects powered by microscopic internal combustion engines. Follow me at Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Carver and Lisi.
Donnie said, how do you work with this guy? He tweeted me, right? And the funny part is that now he works with you more than I do. You spend more time with Donnie than you do me.
Don't forget I did a hit on the early line with him for a half hour on Wednesdays. I think he's jealous of our relationship. He secretly wants what we have.
He's got what we had. He has you more than me now. He has it.
It's Carver and Lisi with Mike Carver and Joe Lisi. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. On the SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge
anywhere. Even while the wife's talking to you.
if you've got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Ben Stevens and George Kurtz.
Live right here on FFC. It is Football Full Circle. George, a huge Sunday in the NFC North. The Lions handing the Vikings Minnesota's first loss of this year. 31-29, 44-yard field goal up and good from Detroit's Jake Bates with just 15 seconds left. It was a wild second half where the Lions led by 11 midway through the third quarter. Minnesota came all the way back to take a late lead after an uncharacteristic cough-up. David Montgomery put the football on the turf, and Minnesota's Ivan Pace Jr. took it the other way for a touchdown. But Jared Goff, incredibly efficient once again, leads the Lions down the field with some good runs out of Jahmyr Gibbs as well to drain some clock and to set up the game winner. Detroit is 5-1. The Vikings now, after their first loss, also 5-1. The Lions in the top spot in a very good NFC North division.
Absolutely. The NFC North has been fantastic. I have Green Bay, Minnesota, who they just beat here, and even Chicago's playing well. So, it's been the best division in football. I'm not even sure it's all that close here from top to bottom. Detroit looks like they are the team to beat right now. Listen, we're not even halfway through the season, but hey, this is the game we play. They look like a team to beat right now. You mentioned Jared Goff playing fantastic. Let's remember, they're doing this they're not even using Sam Laporta. All right, I think the greatest meme, one of the funniest memes I've seen over the weekend was, Detroit got Jameson Williams going. So it's the old Thanos thing. What did it cost you? Sam Laporta. All right, you got Williams, but Laporta's been one catch again. And this time it wasn't for a touchdown on a flea flicker like he did against the Cowboys last week. Goff looks great. All right, they're getting St. Brown. This team is probably the most well-rounded team. They can beat you with the run, right? Gibbs and Montgomery, and they can beat you with the pass. I am curious, Ben, how they're going to be able to survive over the weeks, over the next couple of months without Hutch. All right, that's your main pass rusher.
Yep.
You're going to need someone to get to that quarterback. And now that Reddick has reported to the Jets, I'm going to assume he's off the market here. Who are they going to go for? Because they're going to need to find somebody. And this is their year. They should be all in, right? This is their year. But they're going to need to find somebody to go after that quarterback.
Yeah, first loss of the year for Minnesota. First time this year Detroit has been booked as a dog. They win outright as a short underdog in Minneapolis. Jared Goff, George, 22 of 25, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns a few weeks ago in the Monday night game at home against Seattle. A perfect 18 for 18, setting an NFL record in that game. He has 16 incompletions, 16 passes missed in the last 4 games. The Lions have 18 offensive touchdowns in those 4 games. The first team since the merger in the National Football League way back in 1967 or 1970, whatever it was, to have more offensive touchdowns than passing incompletions in a 4-game span in NFL history. The Lions, the NFC North favorites, and now in first at plus 120. But the Vikings, still solid, a 5-1 football team. George, just behind both Detroit and Minnesota, it's Green Bay. The Packers improved to 5-2 with a walk-off field goal from a familiar name. But now in Green Bay, Brandon McManus drills a 45-yard field goal as time expires, as the Packers come back to beat the Texans 24-22. Now, despite only 86 passing yards out of C.J. Stroud, the Texans do cover as a 3.5-point road underdog. But the Packers have won 3 straight games, all with Jordan Love under center, despite a little bit of helter-skelter play. The Packers are 5-2, George.
They are. They're 5-2. They're looking good. You mentioned Jordan Love. He turns the ball over too much, all right? Yeah. He's got to make some better decisions here. He's throwing the ball into traffic when he doesn't have to. Now, I know he doesn't have that true number 1, but you got a bunch of guys, Wicks, Reed, Watson, I know Dobbs. Even Krabs is determined to be a solid tight end here. You got to find the right read here. You can't force the football over and over again. Stroud had a bad game yesterday. I think they're finally starting to miss Nico Collins here as far as the downfield passing game is concerned. Diggs and I don't know what was going on with Diggs and Alexander. All right, it was fun. Right, they had a little pre-game skirmish. They're going off on social media on each other, so it was fun. And neither guy wanted to back down. But in the end, hey, Alexander, he walked the walk. Diggs, not so much. He didn't have the best of games here. It was a fun game. I thought we'd get more out of Stroud. I thought it'd be high scoring, but I thought it'd be more through the passing game, not because Joe Mixon was running all over the Green Bay Packers. He had a nice game there. Green Bay looks good. Like I said, this North, man, Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, they look really good. It's going to be a lot of fun down the stretch in that division this season.
No doubt. And a lot of divisional games, George, for everybody in that NFC North that come in the final 6, 7, 8 weeks of the season. The Bears on the bye, but Chicago and Caleb Williams also 4-2. Plenty more from the Sunday slate around the NFL. We recap it all ahead of a Monday night doubleheader. That's next on FFC.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
NHL tomorrow night, the Seattle Kraken put a 3-game winning streak on the line at home against the Colorado Avalanche.
Three-man rush. Gino steps up. He's going to throw the end zone. Got DK. He's got it. Touchdown, Seahawks.
Seahawks radio 34-14 the win over the Falcons on Sunday. Both teams are 4-3 with the win. The Seahawks are 2-1 away from home. 2 touchdown passes in the victory for Geno Smith, 18 of 28 passing, 207 yards. He connected with Kenneth Walker and DK Metcalf. Walker also rushed for a score. Seattle returns home next Sunday against Buffalo. College football over the weekend. Oregon shut out Purdue 35-0. Oregon State came up short, falling 33-25 at home against UNLV. Washington State rolled past Hawaii 42-10.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Shop Macy's lowest prices of the fall today. For the season's best prices on what you need now. Save 40 to 60% on new styles to get you ready for cooler temps. Like cozy coats for your crew, the perfect sweaters for layering, and more fall wardrobe updates. Plus, don't miss amazing specials for you and your home. So good, they won't last. At Macy's.
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the propane tank on your grill first before hosting a tailgate.
Let's fire up. Here, let me try. Seriously? You didn't check the propane? Who else did?
Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds.
Salt and vinegar?
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Savings vary. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Days are getting cooler and shadows are getting longer. You know what that means? It's football weather. So bundle up and keep it here for all the latest strategies and gridiron information. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Ben Stevens and George Kurtz.
Elsewhere from the Sunday slate around the National Football League, George, it was not a great sports day for the New York football teams. A New York baseball team with the New York WNBA team wins its first franchise championship in franchise history. Neither football team performing very well, though. The Jets suffering a blowout loss on Sunday Night Football. The Giants hosting familiar foe, Philadelphia, and its new running back, Saquon Barkley, who did not exactly get the warmest welcome back in East Rutherford, but had a big, big day. Saquon Barkley, 187 total yards, $176 on the ground, and a touchdown as he leads Philadelphia to a 28-3 win on the road in MetLife. The Eagles cover easily as a 3.5-point favorite.
Yeah, this is not good for the Giants, right? Not good at all. Daniel Jones, what's that thing now that he hasn't done a touchdown pass at home in, 2 years? That's a joke. All right, he just can't get it done. Yeah, you thought with Malik Neighbors returning yesterday that, okay, the passing outs looked good again. No, it did not. All right, Neighbors only had 4 catches, and he was invisible for a large part of that game. And let's not forget, Ben, this game could have been much worse. Philadelphia called out the dogs in the fourth quarter. Barkley didn't play. Hurts left the game. That whole fourth quarter was the third preseason game now. Right? It was just ugly football there. Both teams wanted to go home and get out of here. So not good here. Eagles still have their issues as well. Still haven't scored a point in the first quarter of the season, which is unbelievable. But Barkley and Giant fans, by the way, booing Barkley is idiotic. He wanted to stay. All right, you didn't want to pay him. We've all seen the that clip of Mara and Douglas, and they didn't want to pay him. I think Mara did. Douglas then they didn't. And probably a mistake. Although then again, you could make the argument, well, we're going to pay a running back. We're not going. Even if they had Barkley, they're not going anywhere. All right, so maybe that's the case there as well here. For Philadelphia, I still think there's more to come here. All right, Ben, I don't think they're quite on track yet. They didn't look great either they looked good in the second and third quarter. First and fourth was a joke. First quarter, they didn't look all that great. So there's still work to be done here. But I think Philadelphia is slowly but surely getting on track. Listen, do I think Sirianni is the long-term answer for this team? I don't. All right, that being said, he may win just enough games to once again remain the head coach. I think he could be sort of what holds them back from reaching where they want to go. But Philadelphia, in my mind still, if they can hit everything, listen, a lot has to go right, but if they hit their ceiling, I don't think they're that far behind all those teams in the NFC North.
Yeah, absolutely, George. And when you look at the numbers right now, 3 of the 4 teams that we have mentioned in the NFC North, 3 of the 4 best prices to win a conference crown in the NFC. The Lions, now the favorites, moving in front of the 49ers, plus 370 for Detroit, plus 470 for San Francisco. 7-1, both the Packers and the Vikings in Philadelphia, backed by $0.50 at plus 750. George, it hasn't been overly optimistic for the Birds this year, but a comfortable divisional win on the road, always a good sign. Elsewhere, divisional rivalry, the Battle of Ohio. In the story, George, out of Cleveland on Sunday, a potentially ruptured Achilles of Deshaun Watson. Based on video, based on everything that we have seen and heard from guys like Dr. David Chow, the Pro Football Doc, it is a torn Achilles. We'll get that official confirmation at some point this week out of the Browns. But in the final minute and a half, Deshaun Watson goes down on the turf in Cleveland with a non-contact injury. George, a lot was made, of course, by the Browns fans in response, almost cheering and applauding to see the starting quarterback in Deshaun Watson go down. There was a lot said afterward by his Browns teammates about him being a model citizen. We also don't have to do that. Things can happen in dichotomy where you are not rooting for an injury, but we don't need a grandstand for a guy that has been involved with many things off the field. On the field, though, this is a Browns team that is 1-6. The Bengals go into Cleveland, do what they needed to do, win and cover on the road. They win 21-14, covering as a 5.5-point favorite.
Yeah, it has been confirmed, by the way, that Achilles is torn, so he's done. And just if you watch the game, you saw it. You saw the reverberation in his calf, so you knew right away it was torn. That only happens when the Achilles pretty much rolls up there like an old window shade. So too bad for him. Do I feel bad for him? I do not. Sorry. I don't root for an injury, but in some ways couldn't happen to a nicer guy. So too bad. It has nothing to do with his play on the field either, by the way. As a father of 2 young girls, married, hard for me to feel bad for this guy at all. That being said, if I was Myles Garrett, I would not be grandstanding for Deshaun Watson. Wrong guy. Correct. Wrong guy. That being said, the fan, you shouldn't be cheering an injury if it's because he's played bad. That you shouldn't do. But hey, on the field, it's probably the best thing for Cleveland. You move on. All right. I want to know, by the way, Ben, were they just making a statement? Was Stefanski making a statement pregame yesterday when they made Winston the third quarterback? All right. Listen, Watson's our guy no matter what. Winston's third now. He's not even on the roster, that sort of thing. What was going on there? Why was he the third? Or did something happen there? Was it a discipline? That sort of thing. So I wonder why he was the third string quarterback there. That being said, I do expect him to start this week. And the offense, believe it or not, will be more functional with Winston. It can't be worse. But you just traded Cooper. The Joker becomes more of a threat here in prop betting. By the way, for those, I think he'll be the main part there. Maybe Judy picks it up here. They do have Nick Chubb back, which was good to see. Good to see him play as they get the touchdown here. They're a better team. Are they going to win games? Probably not. But they're a better team. And outside of the quarterback, this was a good team. The defense is good. The offensive line is good. They do have some skill position play. It's too late in the season to salvage it. But I think this team. I think if you have Cleveland on your schedule now, you're like, oh, now this happens. Now you get to play a team that might be more of a threat. Or at least be more of an NFL team.
Absolutely, George. Last year, 11-6 with Joe Flacco, getting them to the postseason. We shall see. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the second-year pro out of UCLA, did come in as Jameis Winston was that third emergency quarterback. DTR then hurts his hand, so it was Jameis Winston. If there's anything to salvage for the Browns, I guess they will try to do so. Yesterday, George, Buffalo, a hefty favorite at home, laying 8.5 points. They were down double digits early in the second quarter to Tennessee. The Titans never scored again after a 10-0 lead. Buffalo 34 unanswered to win 34-10. One of those pieces Cleveland already traded away. Amari Cooper making his debut in Western New York for the Bills. Caught one of the 2 touchdown passes that Josh Allen threw. He also threw for more than 320 yards. Buffalo, George, another win. A Buffalo cover as well. The Bills, the only team in the AFC East with a winning record as of this moment. The win yesterday in a large way over Tennessee. The Bills now 5-2.
Yeah, this is almost sort of like a trap game for the Bills, right? You played the Jets, last week, big game, big rivalry. Would there be a letdown against Tennessee? No. Tennessee scored the first touchdown. Rudolph did some little damage, and then Buffalo just stomped them. And that's what you want to see a good team do, right? Stomp a bad team, and they did. You got Cooper involved here, all right, which was, it was a little questionable during the week. It wasn't like with Devontae Adams. We knew all week Devontae Adams, the hamstring magically healed. Magically.
Yeah.
But we knew he was going to play for the Jets. Cooper, we were like, oh, we don't know. His prop was only 2.5 receptions there for the Buffalo Bills. But he played well here. And the offense now more fits. Cooper's your number one. Shakir's the guy over the middle. Coleman's the deep guy. All right, Kincaid can clear out underneath on those routes here. You got a decent running attack with Cook, with Ray Davis, Johns. Everything sort of fits now in Buffalo, Ben.
Yeah.
And they should get healthier on defense here. And defense played better than I thought they would this season anyway. They play at Seattle this week, and then they play Miami. Two will be back in Indianapolis. Kansas City, that'll be a nice big game later on here. But Buffalo looks good again. I'm not going to tell you they're a Super Bowl contender. I still think that's Baltimore for me above KC here. But Buffalo looks like a true threat once again. And let's face it, we all knew they needed a wide receiver. This wasn't news. We've been crying for this since they decided to part ways with Stephon Diggs. Got their man. Good for them.
Buffalo minus 800 to win the AFC East for a 5th consecutive year. George, the question for the 4 previous was never Buffalo's ability to post 12 wins, win a division, to make the postseason. It was get to a Super Bowl. Might this year be different? We shall see. We round out the Sunday slate. We preview the Monday night doubleheader on the other side of the break.
Yeah, it's getting cooler. Football weather is here. Stay tuned for all the latest odds, strategies, and info. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
A Texas man whose execution was halted by a subpoena is set to testify to lawmakers. This update brought to you by Linzess. Robert Robertson has been set to become the first person in the U.S. executed over a murder conviction connected to a diagnosis of shaken baby syndrome. His claims of innocence are backed by a group of Republican and Democratic lawmakers who say he was convicted based on outdated science. Once Robertson testifies to lawmakers, prosecutors could seek a new execution date at any time, according to one of his attorneys. A storm system in the Caribbean rapidly escalated Saturday from a tropical storm into Hurricane Oscar, the 10th hurricane of the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. Forecasters say Oscar's winds were much stronger than previously thought and declared the system a hurricane at 2 p.m. Eastern Saturday. The National Weather Service in Melbourne, Florida said Oscar could bring indirect impacts to East Coast beaches in the U.S. from a long period swell in the coming days.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Wendy's breakfast burrito has an entire breakfast in every bite. Fresh cracked eggs, seasoned potatoes, American cheese, cheese sauce, and sausage or bacon. So the first bite is like fresh cracked American cheese sauce. Bacon. And the second bite is like fresh American cheese sauce. Bacon. And the third bite, you get the idea. The boss of breakfast burritos, gotta be Wendy's.
Participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
Home ownership. At Progressive, we know it's part of the American dream. It's sea to shining sea, and water damage as far as the eye can see. It's America. It's freshly mowed grass and a fence that was freshly vandalized by a pack of unruly teens. It's America. It's also round-the-clock protection when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, which can help keep the American dream of home ownership alive and kicking. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Ben Stevens and George Kurtz.
So, George, we just talked about Buffalo. They cover as an 8.5-point home favorite against the Tennessee Titans. 8.5 points is what Washington was laying at home yesterday. The Commanders hosting the Panthers. And despite an early injury to Jaden Daniels, who did return to the sidelines, giving thumbs up to people, saying that he's fine, we shall see and discuss in a moment. Marcus Mariota leads the Commanders to a very comfortable win over the porous Panthers, 40-21. 5-7. The Commanders cover as an 8.5-point home favorite. Total of 51.5 does stay under. Washington now 5-2. Carolina is 1-6, and they're just 1-6 ATS. 5-17-2, George, against the spread, an underdog in all 24 games since the start of last year. Carolina doesn't have much. Washington looks like it has a lot, even without its historic rookie quarterback.
Yeah, you talk about two franchises going in different directions, right? Listen, I guess I'll be the pessimist. We'll go with Carolina first here. Listen, Dalton, I understand you get your offense, looking more like an NFL offense. I get it, but all right, it's over. All right. Unless you're done with Bryce Young. If you're completely done, fine, then who cares? But if you still have hope for this guy, then you got to put him back on the center. All right, it's getting to that point now. He's got to play. Not going to learn much on the, sitting down with a clipboard here. It doesn't make a lot of sense, in my opinion. There, they're a train wreck right now. We'll see what Jonathan Brooks comes back if he can help things out. Although the running game hasn't been an issue there at all. Washington, boy, what a difference a quarterback, what a difference a coach can make, right? An owner. Oh, I mean, this organization has turned around completely here. And once again, as a Cowboy fan, I'm not happy to see this because they found their quarterback for the next decade. An owner who looks like he knows how to run things, leaves the coach alone here. And Dan Quinn, the ex-Cowboy guy, really has things humming here. All right, we worried about their defense, right? Also, their defense is playing well. I know they're not playing much as far as offensive teams here, but they're looking good. All right, they play Chicago next week, and then they get at the Giants, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. So they're going to get a little bit of a run here against better teams. We'll see how they handle that. But yesterday was impressive, Ben. It was impressive. You lost Daniels in first quarter, and then you roll. I know it's Carolina, but you still roll with the backup quarterback. That's impressive in my mind here. Daniels' mom, she posted on X that he's fine. So hey, he'll be good. He's good. The mom says you're good. You're good. Yeah. All right, so you're good there. Good for Daniels. They look great.
We did ask Dr. Chow, George, on the early line about Jaden Daniels getting ready for a huge game in Week 8 as the Commanders will take on the Bears. It's a matchup of number 1 overall pick in Caleb Williams and, of course, number 2 overall pick in Jaden Daniels. He said he is worried about Daniels playing right away, might miss a game or two before his return. That would slightly damper what should be an exciting matchup between two rookie quarterbacks playing really well with two teams above 500. That remains to be seen. A couple of 3-game streaks, George, at stake yesterday in Atlanta. The Falcons had won 3 straight. The Seahawks, after starting 3-0, had lost 3 straight. Well, the Hawks snapped that skid 34-14, dominant in the A, handing the Falcons their first loss in nearly a month. Seattle wins outright as a 3-point road underdog.
This is what's great about the NFL. You see that game yesterday and you go, how the hell did the Seahawks lose at home to the Giants? All right, especially it goes, how did that happen? How did that happen? But they looked good yesterday. Atlanta maybe should have seen this coming. They've been playing some interesting ball of late. They might have escaped Carolina last week where they didn't play great, but you came out there with the win. Yesterday you played a little sloppy again. Well, better team. They took advantage of it. So it is what it is there. Seattle, they get the job done. Kenneth Walker, who also had an illness, but he played, looked good. Geno looked good. Geno's looked good for most of the year. My only problem with Geno, Ben, has been he has no problem moving 20-20. It's been once he gets in the red zone, the passing game sort of bogs down there a little bit. For whatever reason, he's had trouble in the red zone throwing touchdowns, getting the ball into the end zone there. Not so much yesterday. Falcons, listen, they're still a threat. Do I think they're one of the best teams in the NFC? No. Do I think they're a playoff team? Yes. And once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen there. But these are two teams that are, in my mind, very similar. We know they can put points up on the board. Will the defense show up that week? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So that's what I worry about there. Kirk Cousins, I think, just had a bad game. Not so much bad reads, just bad throws yesterday. I think he'll fix that. The Falcons will be fine.
50.5 was the total, did stay under. The Falcons had been over in all 3 consecutive wins, just the second under in 7 games for Mike McDonald and Seattle. The LA Rams, George, laying nearly a touchdown at home yesterday against the Las Vegas Raiders, despite only having 1 win off a bye entering the contest. Well, the Rams did win. They hold on at the end, 22-15. Gardner Minshew filling in for the injured Aiden O'Connell, who the Raiders fear broke his thumb on his right throwing hand early in the matchup. Minshew, 3 interceptions, fumbled the football and lost it as well. The Raiders penalized 10 times. It is a team, George, that is taking step back after step back. The Rams get their second win of the year. The offensive line is healthier. The defense is healthier. We thought Cooper Kupp might return. He should be on his way back soon, along with Puka Nacua. The Rams could be trending up at this moment.
Yeah, I'm going to go the optimist viewpoint here first. With the Rams here, Cooper Kupp wasn't going to play yesterday. It made sense because they play Thursday. All right, so I think they'll hold him out. He'll come Thursday. Play with Minnesota there. Probably, I don't know how well that game's going to go for the Rams against an angry Minnesota team, but that's what's going to happen next. So Kupp will be back here. Rams sort of salvaged their season. They still have a shot here. Listen, Kyren Williams is great, right? And by the way, if you look at touchdown props, Kyren Williams should be like first on your list. All the man does is score touchdowns. Right, it's like Chris Carter there. So he's playing well there. There's a lot of noise where if the Rams do fall apart over the next couple of weeks, that maybe Stafford could be traded. Interesting. I don't know if we'll see that happen there, but the trade deadline is in, 2 weeks from tomorrow, November 6th, Election Day. Should be a fun day. The Rams salvaged their season. The Raiders, I mean, you already said it. This is a dumpster fire. All right, this is a complete dumpster. This team needs to be overhauled. I'm sorry, Antonio Pierce is not the answer. You need a real head coach in there, probably a disciplinarian, and you need to start from scratch. You don't have a quarterback of the future on your roster. O'Connell's not the answer. Minshew's not the answer. Ken Stable's not coming back. Jim Plunkett's not coming back. Guess what? You need a quarterback. Better go find one. Better find a head coach, too, while you're at it.
As an interim, Antonio Pierce had his Raiders 7-1-1 against the spread. This year, they are just 2-5 ATS. Yesterday, their first cover in a loss this season. Monday Night Football preview next.
The boys of summer become the champions of fall. The World Series is on its way. And SportsGrid brings you every angle. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're going to love it, and you're going to love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Ben Stevens and George Kurtz.
George, for the third time in 4 weeks, we've got a doubleheader on Monday night to end out a week in the NFL. Week 7 comes to a close tonight with a doubleheader of games in Tampa it's the Bucs and the Ravens first, kicking around 8:15 p.m. Eastern time. Then we head out to the desert, our second game of 2 on this Monday. The Cardinals take on the Chargers. That game scheduled to kick around 9 p.m. Eastern. George, let's start with the first game in Tampa. Should be a really good one between the Buccaneers and the Ravens. Baltimore on a 4-game win streak. They have covered in all 4 consecutive wins, and they're a 3.5-point favorite on the road against the Buccaneers. Total stands at 49.5. George, what do you like in the opening of those 2 games on this Monday night?
By the way, I have to believe it's just a matter of time until we get 2 games every Monday. I think this is coming. The NFL's going to want this, and I love it, by the way. I'm looking forward to the first game, right? I mean, it's a big game. Baltimore, Tampa Bay. I think points are coming here. They're going to get a higher scoring game here. Baker Mayfield. I mean, you mentioned Jared Goff earlier. Maybe he's the leader for the MVP. But Baker's not that far behind him. He's played really well. I know Mike Evans was on the injury report earlier. He's off. He's fine. Godwin should have a big game tonight. If you have a prop better, man, Ball's telling us he's going with the hot hand at running back is not good news. Good luck, Irving, Rashad White, Sean Tucker. Yeah, that's not fun here. Baltimore's just, listen, it's Lamar Jackson playing great. He had Derrick Henry. Is he going to get the end zone? Absolutely. Like I said, I think points are coming. Whoever makes the least amount of mistakes here, I'm on the over, and I'm going to take the Buccaneers. Give me the points with the Bucs here at home. But like I said, really good game that I'm looking forward to.
The Ravens over in 5 of 6 games. George, the Ravens right now, the 8th worst scoring defense in the NFL, allowing close to 25 points per game. They're great against the run, the best in the NFL. They're the worst against the pass. The worst passing defense is the flock. You would think that could favor Baker Mayfield and his receiving trio. When you have Mike Evans, he's a little bit banged up, dealing with a hamstring injury, but still a prop posted. Chris Godwin's been his top target. Keep an eye on Cade Otton, the tight end for the Buccaneers. 36.5 is his receiving yards prop. Quickly here, George. Baltimore's won 4 straight, and Derrick Henry has had at least 92 yards on the ground in all 4. The King has scored in every game this year, multiple touchdowns twice in this 4-game win streak, and in 3 of the 4, at least 132 rushing yards. The Buccaneers not bad against the run. Also the 4th worst passing defense. We could see both quarterbacks have a big night. George, I agree with you, though. The Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield as an underdog since the start of last year, 11-5 against the spread, both 2-1 straight up and ATS as an underdog this season. Second game of the night, George, out in Glendale, Arizona. The Cardinals host the Chargers. LA, a slight road favorite, 1.5 on the spread, minus 118 or so on the money line. A total that's a little bit lower at 44.5. What do you expect for the nightcap of our Monday night doubleheader?
Almost a 180 from the early game, right? We know Harbaugh, he doesn't want to play high-scoring games. He doesn't want to play football. He's going to run, eat the clock. All right. If you look at, if we could have it at game times, this would be an under because the game's going to go. The time of the game's going to be less than 3 hours because he's going to run the ball. It's what Harbaugh. He did not lie to us. One of my favorite sayings is, "When can you tell a coach is lying? When his lips move." Not Harbaugh. He told you the truth. He was going to draft those linemen, and he wanted to run the football, keep the ball out of Herbert's hands, and he wants to do that tonight. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I did think the Cardinals are going to win the game. They're a helter-skelter team. They don't show up one week, don't show up the next. They were terrible last week in Green Bay. I think they'll be better tonight, Monday night at home against the Chargers. I think they cover. I think this is an under. I think this is kind of a boring game, to tell you the truth. Like I said, I think we're going to be all excited, all amped up from the Baltimore-Tampa game. And they were like, it's always like you breathe, and it's a boring game here. So more 80s football, early 90s football here, like more like 17-14, 20-17. Give me, like I said, Bucks over, Cardinals under.
Yeah, I think, George, I do agree as well. 44.5, highest total of the year for LA. 44.5, lowest total of the season for Arizona. The Chargers did go over last week in a road victory in Denver. They were leading 23-0 at some point. The Broncos came back to score more than 2 touchdowns. Game barely trickled over for the Bolts' first over of the year. It featured 37 points because the total was 35 or 36.5, depending on where you got it. George is spot on. The Bolts have said all year long they want to run the football. I think that's what they look to do tonight against a Cardinals rushing defense that is third worst in the National Football League. He's George Kurtz. I'm Ben Stevens. That does it for us today on Football Full Circle. Show returns tomorrow, noon Eastern time, here on SportsGrid Radio.
Now you've done it. You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.